top focus. So what's happening as far as the Indo-US equation is concerned? Now, after his earlier comments suggesting that the United States has lost India to China, US President Donald Trump has now toned down his rhetoric, stating that ties with New Delhi remain special and that he continues to share a strong personal bond with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Listen in.
I always will. I'll always be friends with Modi. He's great. Prime Minister, he's great. I'll always be friends, but I just don't like what he's doing at this particular moment. But India and the United States have a special relationship. There's nothing to worry about. We just have moments on occasion.
US President Donald Trump has stated that he is disappointed that India is purchasing oil from Russia. However, the president also reaffirmed the special relationship between the two countries, insisting that he and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will always be friends despite occasional disagreements. Now, responding to Trump's comments, Prime Minister Modi has stated that he appreciates and fully reciprocates Trump's sentiments and the positive assessment of India-US ties as well. He's also pointed to the comprehensive special relationship that both nations are sharing on the strategic front. Joining us on the broadcast is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World. What do you make of Trump's fresh statements? This, of course, follows a barrage of statements that were made by his very close advisors, his Commerce Secretary as well yesterday, emphasizing that India would eventually bow down to the pressure. Now, Trump is toning down, softening his tone as far as India is concerned. What is your assessment of what's taken place?
Well, I think that President Trump, yes, certainly we were rather disappointed by his tweet of yesterday, when he tried to hint that maybe we are losing India. But I do think that this was based on an incorrect understanding of India's foreign policy of strategic autonomy. India's foreign policy of strategic autonomy is not a zero-sum game. We develop our bilateral relations with all countries and groupings as we think appropriate in India's best national interests. So in case there is a meeting between President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, or President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, or even a trilateral photograph of the three, it does not in any way affect our bilateral relationships with the USA. And we've always been trying to say that. And in fact, despite President Trump's tweets, the bilateral relationship with the USA has been growing and developing on its own. There were joint military exercises in Alaska very recently. The bilateral trade agreement is continuing its negotiations. There was a meeting on the IMEC between India and USA. There was a 2+2 meeting at various levels. So all this has been continuing, and I think that it is very good that President Trump, in his tweet this morning, recognizes that the relationship between India and USA stand on its own strength, on their own bilateral strength, and it's a very good relationship. It is a global comprehensive strategic partnership, and India and USA has been doing everything together to develop that partnership, whether through Quad or through a number of other bilateral efforts. And I think that Prime Minister Modi's very quick and prompt and very correct response, welcoming President Trump's tweet and saying that India too, and Prime Minister Modi himself, values a friendship with President Trump and with the USA, and we look forward to continuing that in every possible field of endeavor. And I do think that, whether it is on matters like, the purchase of Russian oil, where, for example, we have explained that it is because America requested us to purchase Russian oil. We were not doing so earlier. And the effort was to keep a cap on global prices of petroleum products, and that is why we were doing it. And we do think that the right to do it is part of our own policy of strategic autonomy. And similarly, the other disagreement or misunderstanding that was there on the mediation between, in connection with Operation Sindoor, I think that, India has had a very important and consistent red line, saying that there would be no third-party mediation in the relationship between India and Pakistan. And this is what had been explained at all times to President Trump and to his other colleagues, whether it is Secretary of State or others. And I think by and large, this point has been understood. And I do hope that with the tweet today from President Trump, this is a new reset and that we will go forward carrying our comprehensive global strategic partnership with the USA from one strength to another based on this mutual understanding.
Indeed, ma'am, I request you to stay on with us because it seems that India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has just reacted to what has transpired. Let's listen in.
I think Prime Minister Modi obviously attaches enormous importance to our partnership with the United States. And where President Trump is concerned, he's always had a very good personal equation with President Trump. But the point is, look, we are engaged, we remain engaged with the United States, and at this time, I can't say more than that, but that's really what I would say.
Indeed, we've just heard India's External Affairs Minister. Ambassador Sikri, I'd like to come back to you. This was a very measured response. Dr. Jaishankar has pointed out that both Modi and Trump share a very good personal equation and that India continues to remain engaged with the US. You've pointed out that India has remained resolute as far as following its policy of strategic autonomy is concerned. We've in fact seen that the Prime Minister has remained mum ever since not just Trump but also his officials have been taking sharp digs at India over the last couple of weeks, from calling India a dead economy to blaming India for the war that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. Do you think the response of the Indian administration over the last couple of weeks and now is one that is signaling to Washington that we have not taken their bait and that we are a sovereign state and that our foreign policy cannot be dictated?
Well, I think that subtext very much remains because, Dr. Jaishankar had recently mentioned 3 red lines in India's foreign policy with particular reference to the USA. He had said that one red line is that on trade and tariffs, we will always protect, we will always protect the interests of Indian farmers, of Indian fishermen, dairy producers, and our micro and small entrepreneurs. Second red line was, he said that we retain the right to purchase Russian oil or oil from any other country. And third red line he had said was that India does not accept mediation, third-party mediation in the relationship between India and Pakistan. So I think those 3 red lines remain. Absolutely. I don't think there's going to be any change in that subtext. But, given the overall, there's so much else to do in the bilateral relationship between India and USA. And also I would point to a number of very strong positive statements from Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, who has been actually involved in the negotiations of the bilateral trade agreement. And he has been saying that we are very, very close to an agreement. We do know that maybe at one point the US trade representative, the USTR, had taken a text to President Trump saying that perhaps this is ready now for approval. So that approval has not come yet. But I think judging from what Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is saying, perhaps that approval will come soon. This is all to be seen. We are waiting to see what will happen on that. But I think that all this while, our Prime Minister has been very much maintaining a policy of strategic restraint. He's not been saying anything. He's been keeping quiet. But as soon as President Trump gave that very positive tweet today, our Prime Minister has immediately responded. He has reaffirmed what he has always felt all along, that the comprehensive global strategic partnership between India and USA is very important and very strong. And his personal relationship with President Trump is very good. And he hopes to continue all of this. The personal relationship with President Trump, the bilateral relationship, the growth of the global comprehensive strategic partnership, and the working together in many areas, which in fact has already been going on.
Indeed. Ma'am, I request you to stay on with us as we track further developments. We're now learning that Indian